welcome to Completely Booked, the official podcast of the Jacksonville Public Library. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Gabby. Today's podcast is about something that's near and dear to all of our hearts, coffee. We interviewed Ryan Fletcher, who is the founder of Young Buck Coffee Roasters here in Jacksonville. It's a startup coffee company that's already making a huge splash in the community, no pun intended.
But before we get to that, we wanted to take a quick moment to let you know about an awesome promotion we have going on at the library right now. September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month, so we partnered with our favorite local theater in town, Sunray Cinema, to give library card holders a free small popcorn during the month of September.
If you already have a library card, you're good to go. But if you don't have a library card already, just pop into any local branch to sign up for one, or you can apply for an e-card online at jackspubliclibrary.org/signupmonth.
Then present it at Sunray's concessions counter when you go to see a movie, and the best popcorn in town is yours for free. The promotion lasts until September 30th, so definitely go check it out.
Okay, now back to the podcast. Ryan from Young Buck Coffee Roasters gives us his expert insight on coffee. He tells us what the process of roasting coffee is like from start to finish and gives us his favorite methods for brewing a perfect cup of coffee.
Plus, we do an on-air coffee tasting that's both educational and delicious.
So without further ado, here is our interview with Ryan Fletcher. So we are here with Ryan Fletcher. He is the owner of Young Buck Coffee. Welcome in, Ryan. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I have a background in fine arts. I have a degree from the Kansas City Art Institute. Graduated in 2010. I lived in Kansas City for about 10 years, 3 during finishing college, and then about 5 or 6 years after that. And I worked as a studio ceramic artist. I made connections with chefs in the area, high-end chefs, and I proposed projects with them to collaborations to create custom dinnerware that was designed around their culinary backgrounds and stuff like that. So, and then we would after the project was finished, we would do private dinner. We'd have private dinners, and that would be the way that I displayed my artwork in use, with the chef, with plates with food on it, basically, as opposed to doing gallery shows. And then from there, kind of started getting burnt out on ceramics after 4 or 5 years, and decided to stop. I discontinued, stopped making ceramics, stopped doing projects. I actually started a construction company because I had a background in construction before that. It's a strange sort of chronology, but during that time, while I was doing construction, I started as a hobby getting into coffee, like roasting coffee at home on a stovetop, you can use like a whirly pop. So I was using like a whirly pop popcorn maker. Have you ever seen one of those? You can actually use those to roast coffee. And so I was roasting coffee at home, just getting really into it. And then I started getting into espresso, and I was actually roasting, coming up with my own espresso blends and playing with different single origin coffees that worked with espresso machines. And I really got into what a sort of a old school sort of way of brewing espresso, which is with a lever espresso machine. So a lever espresso machine is like a manual, form of brewing espresso before they had the vibratory pumps that create the pressure in like the modern ones.
What started your interest in coffee?
I guess because there were so many like amazing coffee shops in Kansas City. So there were probably, before I left, maybe 12 small batch roasting, like artisan coffee roasting companies in Kansas City, all in the same, within probably a 5-mile radius of where I lived. And so I got to go to all the different, all the different coffee shops and, geek out with all the baristas about why the coffee tasted the way it was. And I was, sort of developing my palate during that time and learning, doing my own research on the side, And then, I would take that back into my, my home roasting, and so I started fixing up these old vintage, like 1970s, 1980s lever espresso machines, and doing espresso at my house, and it's kind of went from there.
So how much coffee are you drinking?
I was, at that time, I was drinking a ton. I was probably doing 5 or 6 shots of espresso every day, and then doing some drip coffee on top of that, throughout the day. Because I'm still obsessed, but I was really into it then.
So what does the process of roasting coffee look like from start to finish? Because you see coffee roaster everywhere, but I don't know if people actually know what the process entails.
Yeah, so when you roast coffee, you're buying dry green, unprocessed coffee. So it's been picked from the tree, it's been depulped, and the fruit's been taken off of it. There's a mucilage layer that gets taken off. It gets processed several different ways, and all those different ways sort of contribute to the flavor. And we can talk about that as we're trying this coffee here. But and then it gets dried, and it gets dried to about like a 10% humidity, 11% humidity, and then it gets bagged. And so you're buying the dry green coffee, and then you put that into your machine, and you're applying heat at a very specific rate. And, it's changing. There's all sorts of things happening. There's chemical processes that are happening in the coffee, sugar development, flavor compounds that are being created. There's, I guess you could say there is like 4 different phases inside of the roaster. And so the first one would be like a drying phase. And so during that process, excess water, it's very dry already, but it's so there's chemical water that's being released from the coffee. So it's a drying phase. The coffee goes from a greenish blue color to like a yellow color. And then after that, you're going to right around what would be called first crack. And so what's happening is as energy is being put into the heat energy is being put into the coffee bean. It's building up inside the skin layer of the coffee, and then eventually it bursts open and it cracks. So there's like an audible sound. It's referred to as first crack. And somewhat before and during and after that time is what's happening is it's called a Maillard reaction. And a Maillard reaction is when sugars are being developed. It's the same as like if you're grilling a steak. The searing process that happens when you're grilling a steak is a Maillard reaction. And that's flavor development. And that's when all the really complex, nuanced flavors are happening. And if you can control that really well and make it repeatable, then you're in a good place, I guess. Yeah.
I've always wondered how would you make contact with somebody that grows and sells beans like in Guatemala? Like, how do you get that from Guatemala all the way here to Jacksonville?
Well, the way that we source our coffee, we don't actually have to make those relationships. So there are several really high quality coffee importers. And so what they're doing is their job is to go around and make all those relationships and, purchase the coffee and then we can just buy it from them based on what our taste preferences are. So they send us samples, we roast the samples, and then we choose our coffees that way. So we probably went through 40 or 50 samples before we landed on the 7 or 8 coffees that we sell.
So a lot of people are hooked on like Keurigs and other single serve coffee machines. What are some of your arguments for why people should ditch the pods?
Well, we just mostly we don't like the environmental downsides of that every single cup of coffee that you drink has to have a piece of trash attached to it. That's severely multiplying the amount of garbage that comes with the coffee making process.
Yeah, totally.
It's already bad enough that, every bag of coffee that you get is a piece of trash, or, every piece of food that you buy in the grocery store in general has a piece of trash that's going to outlast you and your grandchildren on the earth. So we don't like it for that reason. There's also an issue with the actual way that the coffee gets brewed. So the coffee is, you're dissolving flavors from the ground coffee into water. The way that the coffee tastes has a lot to do with your coffee to water ratio and the temperature of the water. And those two things are really problematic, I'd say, in pods brewer, in a Keurig of some kind. So it's not enough coffee and for the amount of water that gets dispensed for that coffee, and you have no control over it, really. And the temperature of the water is pretty low as far as it goes. It's not quite where it needs to be, and so all those things are affecting the way that the flavors get extracted from the coffee. Another thing is when the coffee was roasted and how it was packaged. They vacuum seal everything, which is nice, but you have no idea when the coffee was roasted and how long it sat ground before it was put in the pod, and those are all things that contribute to flavor as well, because as soon as the coffee leaves the roaster, it begins to gas off and lose volatile compounds like flavor compounds and aroma and all that kind of stuff. It starts to leave the coffee as you get farther and farther away from the roast date. So
yeah, I just invested in a new coffee pot that has a reusable mesh.
Sure, like a gold filter?
Yeah, because I always felt bad with how many filters I was using and then throwing out the coffee, but yeah.
Well, that stuff's all biodegradable. I mean, that stuff's all compostable. I mean, that could potentially be composted to filters and stuff, but
really?
When it comes to plastics and things like that, it gets a little sketchy.
I've used a couple pots too, and those. I know that some of the plastic is recyclable, but it's you have to pull off the top and dump out the coffee and then rinse out the plastic cup.
It's got to be clean, or else it's going to end up in the garbage. They're not going to sit there in the recycling processing area and clean out all your plastic for you. They're just going to throw it away.
Yeah.
Well, can I go ahead and pour? These are super hot, so I want to give me some time to cool off.
So as you're kind of doing this, why don't you talk the listeners through what growing regions you have and what different single roast or blends that you have?
Sure. Yeah. So right now we're carrying a.
Ryan is actually pouring coffee because he's doing a special coffee tasting for us. So how about I pour the coffee? Okay. Can I pour the coffee for you?
Yeah, you can do that.
And you can keep talking to Gabby.
Yeah, you just pour them all in a straight line there.
I love that sound too. You should get that kind of close up to the mic with ASMR. Okay, that's just a beautiful sound.
If only they could smell it too. Here.
So we carry, right now we have a Guatemala, an El Salvador. We have 2 Costa Rican coffees. We have 2 Ethiopian coffees and a Tanzania micro lot. And these differ quite a bit from one to the other, which you will be experiencing. But and then we have a blend that we do in-house, which we call Giant Oak Espresso, which is sort of a tribute to all the mega fauna or megaflora of this area. There's huge oak trees, live oaks and stuff that are really prominent around here. So
how do you come up with the names for your coffee?
The names are mostly based on where they came from and the name of the farm or the washing station for each. So this one's called Guatemala Candelaria Huehuetenango. So Huehuetenango is the region, the larger region. I think Candelaria is the smaller region, and then Guatemala is the country, obviously. So this is a washed processed coffee. So before I was talking about the processing of the coffee, the wash process differentiates it from a dry process or a natural process. So this process involves taking the fruit off of the coffee bean before it's dried. So they have to take the fruit off at some point, so they can either take it off before or after it's dried. And if they take it off before, it's called a washed process. If they take it off after, it's called a natural or dry process. And that contributes to flavor by so the washed processed coffees are going to be more sort of vibrant and acidic and sort of like citrus, sort of like citrus notes flavors. Natural processed coffees are going to be more fruit forward. So you're going to get like cherry, stone fruit. We have one here that's super interesting natural coffee that you're going to get like strawberry jam, blueberry, things like that, really exotic sort of flavors that you wouldn't typically think of when you think of coffee. But
very cool. Should we taste Guatemala as we're...
Yeah, start with that one.
Good thing I didn't drink enough coffee today. It's like, oh, I need more coffee. Oh,
yeah,
wait.
I've actually had
Young Buck's coming in.
only 1 cup this morning, so this is really hot. So what's going to happen as it cools? Your tongue's going to be able to start tasting the nuanced flavors better. As when the coffee's really hot, your tongue has a hard time tasting. So as it cools, it gets sweeter and more complex. All the nuanced flavors will start coming out a little bit more. But what you'll get from this one is, you'll get like a lemon citrus, and a little bit of cherry in the background, but a lot of like dark chocolate kind of flavors.
Yeah, you're the coffee connoisseur, so you have flavor profiles, but you really do get that sort of citrus, bright, like right at the tip of your tongue. Mm-hmm. It's just super bright and tart.
But also like a dark chocolatey
but
after,
in the back,
like
yeah.
a second later. Yeah,
yeah.
Totally.
It's very cool.
Definitely. And, we choose coffees, for like sweetness and ripeness and these nuanced flavors as well. Like these are the main sort of, I guess, the things that dictate the coffee, that, my palate. I want when people drink my coffee that they don't need to put sugar in it. They don't need to put cream in it because it's already got like, all those great flavors in there already.
Yeah, it's so complex compared to and I think a lot of people, it's almost like with wine, if you're not well versed in the wine world, you don't really know what you're tasting for. And this is just like right off the bat, so complex and so interesting.
Yeah. And I want the coffees to speak for themselves. I want people to go, to go like, this is like no coffee I've ever had before. Like, I really enjoy like converting people. Like whenever they taste our coffee for the first time after trying, some off the shelf brand or whatever it is. It's night and day, really.
Yeah. Are your coffees considered organic or fair trade? Or?
We have organic and fair trade coffees. Yeah. So, but we would have to be certified by those organizations in order to, like, say, advertise that, like a company like Sweetwater does, for instance. You have to have your facility certified by those organizations, and we're just not there yet. And we really we have 1 or 2 coffees that have those certifications. This Ethiopia Yirgacheffe is an organic fair trade coffee. It's also like Rainforest Alliance, has a lot of great, it's fair. It's it's like a farming co-op down there. There's a lot of great things about the way that the coffee was processed, the social aspects of the coffee. But we just like it because it tastes good. So, do
you want to move to that one?
Sure, we can keep it. Yeah, keep it in order so that so we go back to it. As we go back to it, it's going to change. The flavor is going to change as it cools. Very cool. So
this would be a really fun party idea.
Coffee tasting.
Yeah, coffee tasting.
Our producer Justin drank his whole cup already. He's like, wait, I wasn't supposed to drink that so fast. Too delicious not to drink too fast, right?
It's kind of like if if you're so used to drinking like domestic beers and then you try, a microbrew for the first time, it's kind of that same experience. Like, whoa, beer isn't just Bud Light. There's so much out there. Look, it's kind of one of those experiences right now.
Okay, so tell us about the second one.
So the second one here is our espresso blend. This is a blend of 3 high-quality single-origin coffees. It's our Guatemala, our El Salvador, and our Ethiopia Yirgacheffe. So it's 2 natural processed coffees and 1 washed coffee. So you're going to get a lot of fruit. You're going to get a lot of sweet chocolate, milk chocolate, but then a really good balanced acidity from the washed coffee that's in there.
So does this make it a stronger coffee if you combine?
No. So strength really just comes from the thing I was talking about with the coffee to water ratio. In the industry, we refer to strength as total dissolved solids. So, and that's just the thing about, you're dissolving the flavor compounds of the coffee into water, and there's a way to actually measure that scientifically. But essentially, the what you're doing is, if you want stronger coffee, you just add more coffee. But what people think of when they think of when they ask me, like, oh, we want dark coffee, or we want a really strong coffee. They're talking about flavor, and the flavor actually comes from the ripeness of the coffee. So just like any other fruit, coffee's a fruit. You want it to be ripe when it's picked, or else it's not going to have that sweetness. It's not going to have that nuanced flavors. That acidity is not going to be there. It's going to be sour. It's going to be dull. All those things that you'd think of like a sour, like biting into like an unripe apple or an unripe banana. It's not going to have that. It's not going to have that sweetness and all that
Interesting.
stuff.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah. So, when people tell me that, I'm just like, just try this one. And then they try it and they go, oh my gosh, this is, and they go, oh yeah, this is really dark. And I'm like, well, not really. It's just a ripe coffee. So
here we go.
So you're going to start to get a little bit of that fruit flavor on the front.
Yeah.
A little more like milk chocolate versus like bitter chocolate, and really like a high level of sweetness, I think, in that one.
Like you don't need to add anything to this.
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite coffees that we sell.
Justin is in his happy place right now.
and they're starting to cool now, so you're getting a lot more.
Do you prefer a really hot coffee or when it's like this?
I actually drink like room temperature coffee.
Me too.
Me too.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I like to put ice in my thermos in the morning because my thermos keeps my coffee hot until like 12 p.m. I'm like, how does it keep it so hot?
Yeah.
Like they have kids temperature in Starbucks. Like oftentimes if I am getting a hot drink, I'll go with
temperature. I never knew that.
It's perfect. It's like perfect, go right in for a big gulp the first sip. Like you don't have to wait 10 minutes for it to not, totally sear your mouth. So
people have a lot of negative things to say about Starbucks, but they had this coffee brewer called a Clover. Has you guys ever tried the Clover?
No.
Yeah. It was like here, I'm in 5 Points, so we had it at our 5 Points or our Riverside Starbucks, and it was like a special edition.
Like one of the best cup of coffees I've ever had from there. It was one of their reserve coffees. I can't remember which one exactly, but yeah, that's a serious machine.
Yeah,
but I think they're getting rid of them all because they're not. I don't know why, but they're hard to service or something.
Mm-hmm. Do you recommend that people grind their beans every morning, or can you do it like 4 days before?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that, I realize not everybody's going to be able to do that. And so we sell ground coffee. I mean, most coffee roasters will sell you ground coffee. And our grinder is amazing. So you're going to get really great ground coffee when you buy ground coffee from us. And it's going to be well sealed and everything. So, but if you can see, but the quality of the grinder is also important as well. So you could buy a bad grinder, grind your own coffee, and it's not going to be as good as like if you got it from us, for instance.
I think I've had my grinder for like 10 years. I'm immediately going to buy a new one.
So the burrs go dull, the blades, whatever that you're using goes dull. There's different grinders that give you different grind qualities, and like I believe that grind quality more than anything else contributes to the flavor of coffee, because of the whole like extraction process. Like, if you have a really nice, that's why when you go into Bold Bean or Social Grounds, wherever you go for coffee, you see this really expensive equipment up there. That's not because they've got all this extra money to spend. It's because they know that their quality of their product has to do with, those aspects of the making it. So
good to know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody needs to go out and buy a $2,000 grinder like Bold Bean's got or whatever, but
don't feel so bad. Like if you do go to Bold Bean and buy a pound of coffee and have them grind
and have it grind it. Yeah, exactly. Have them grind it for you. Or, if you were to invest in a grinder, the way that you could think about it is, you're able to produce cafe level coffee in your own house. It's at a fraction of the price. That all sort of works into the cost of the thing that you're buying. So it's not so bad when you think about it as like, oh, I'm going to get like 2,000 cups of coffee from this $300 grinder that I bought. That makes it worth it.
And that's funny. I feel like people are divided. Like, I'm the type of person that loves just brewing in my own house and waking up, and while I'm getting ready, I have some coffee to sip on. And my partner is like the opposite. He, like, every single day he'll go get a $2 cup of coffee just because that's part of his routine, and he just like it's his favorite part of the day. And I think people are kind of split in that way. Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I always make coffee at home, but then I also love going out and visiting all the great coffee shops that we have here in town. And just kind of seeing what people have to offer. Because the thing about me, which sort of translated into our business, is that I like variety. I like to have variety. And so, like, we have a product like a coffee flight where you can buy 4-ounce samples of 4 different coffees that we sell and try them all at the same time. So I like that. I'll have like one coffee, this morning, one coffee, another morning, another coffee, and then another coffee. Like, I'm always trying different things because I don't like drinking the same thing over and over again when it comes to coffee. And so, that's sort of like something that we wanted to provide for other people in the homes. It's not something that you usually get.
Yeah.
You go out and you buy you go buy a big bag of coffee, and you have the same coffee every morning for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it takes you.
I love that. Should we try the last sample here?
Last one. So this is a Ethiopia Yirgacheffe Natural. So this is a what's called a we were talking about varietals earlier, but so this is that refers to the subspecies of coffee. So that 90% of the coffee that you're ever going to drink is Arabica coffee. So that's the species. But beyond that, you have subspecies like Typica, Pacamara, lots of different, to equate this to like going to the grocery store and you have all the different kinds of apples, to pick from at a grocery store. Those are similar to like the subspecies of coffee. So all that to say, the varietals of coffee that this single origin is made of are what contribute to its exotic sort of flavor. So you're going to get strawberry jam, blueberry, and then like a bitter chocolate on with this one as well.
Okay. Oh yeah, definitely taste that blueberry.
Yeah,
it almost tastes like a flavored coffee.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's sort of unexpected. Like I've had experiences with coffee in the past where I've, my eyes have sort of been open to like the possibilities of what like coffee can taste like. And I feel like if people who have never had, specialty coffee before tried something like this, that would be, that might be something that happened. That's kind of something that I'm interested in providing to people, is that experience that like, coffee can be just more than that like sort of dull, bitter thing that you have to like put cream and sugar in. Like it's like sort of a discovery, like a sense of like you're actually like going to the places where the coffee comes from, because that's what you're tasting where it came from,
Yeah. This one definitely tastes like a dessert coffee or something.
Yeah. It's Delicious.
I'm going to get this one for sure.
And it's not like, I just keep thinking back to wine tastings and they're like, oh, you're going to get all this stuff from it. And a lot of it's subjective and you're kind of like, yeah, sure. But this is like, so, I mean, you just taste like jam right off. Right. Like in the front. That's so cool.
Yeah, like I'll see that stuff on the bags and I'll be like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I'll buy it. But then when I get to the point of actually drinking it, I forgot what's in that bag and I'm just in a hurry. But
and sometimes that can be, an issue of like, so like I said, I have a really nice grinder like at home as well. And so like when I made this coffee for you guys to, to bring for you to taste, that's what I was being very like intentional with the brewing process. And that's one of the reasons why all those flavors are so prominent. It's because of the care in the brewing process, where like if I had a blade grinder and I was just like, I don't know, doing like a French press or something like that, you may not get that. It may not be as apparent. So there's that. And then there's also, like a lot of the stuff that they put on bags is, sometimes it's marketing. It's there, but it's really subtle, no matter what you do. But, it's just
for sure.
Yeah, part of running a business as well. So, but yeah, you guys experienced these coffees, and that the flavors that we were talking about were actually
totally
apparent,
there.
So.
Where are your coffees available to purchase?
So right now we're selling in Grassroots Market. Mm-hmm. Is our primary like grocery outlet.
I saw it there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so. Grassroots Market, and then we've got a few wholesale restaurants, like Riverdale Inn is one of them that you guys had on the show here. There's a restaurant called Comfort Southern Bistro on University near San Jose. It's great like breakfast and lunch place.
Do you have a website where people could buy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a website as well. It's youngbuckcoffee.com. And you can buy our coffee as well as a bunch of great handmade ceramics from some artists, dedicated ceramic artists from all over the country. We've got about 35 pieces for sale right now. So you can enjoy your, high quality artisan, handmade coffee in a high quality artisan handmade cup.
Cool. I love that idea.
Yeah.
And where did the name Young Buck come from?
So it's double entendre. So I named it after my grandfather, who's the guy on the bag.
I was going to ask who this gentleman is.
Yeah, we found his old Navy ID photo that he had been keeping since he was about 20, I think. And we thought his face was pretty cool on there. It looks pretty dapper, pretty distinguished gentleman. And so we took his face and sort of made it. And so his nickname is Buck. And so, we call it Young Buck, just sort of for the obvious thing. But then we're like, we realize that we're coming in to, sort of like established market here. There's a lot of people, in the coffee business that have been around for a long time. And so we're the Young Bucks. We're the new guy and the new kids on the block. And we're, trying to make a splash. So we've gotten hopefully like some new ideas, trying to be innovative and do some new things, incorporating like, art into our, sort of, business, and sort of embracing creativity and these, all these ideas to come up with something that maybe people haven't had yet.
Totally.
Let's talk brewing methods a little bit. I know the lever espresso machine is probably your number one.
I'm super romantic about those old things. The one that I have now is a new. So I got a new lever espresso machine. So it's not like an old like 70s, vintage one like the ones I was fixing up. But yeah, I love like just the hands-on aspect of it. I mean, I also love pushing a button and something coming out. Like that's great. Like, and there's still a lot of skill to, modern espresso machines. But yeah, I like lever espresso machines. I like modern espresso machines. I also like a simple pour over. One thing I would suggest for people who are looking for like a cheap and easy way to brew coffee at home, you can go to pretty much any grocery store and buy a Melita 1 cup like plastic multi-use pour over device. Just set it right on top of your cup, put a filter in there, put the grounds in, and pour hot water over it. So all that would take is a bag of coffee, I think it's $6, 1 cup pour over, and a water kettle. And you heat the water up to boiling, let it cool just for a few seconds, and then pour the hot water over the coffee. And it's just a really cheap and easy way to get like a really high quality, pour over. There's another brand called Hario. Hario V60 is another one that's really popular. It's a little more expensive, but can also give you just a really high quality cup of coffee at home.
Do you guys do decaf?
We do have decaf coffees. They're naturally like water processed decaf. And yeah, we actually don't sell a lot of decaf.
I know. Yeah. I've always wondered what the point is, but we have a lot of decaf drinkers here. And
yeah.
When I worked at Barney's, there were a lot of people that asked for half decaf, half reg.
Yeah.
Just for like still a full cup of coffee, but not as strong.
Mm-hmm.
I think people just like the routine part of it too, when they're used to, having their cup of coffee, and it's sort of, part of that, but some people aren't great with large amounts of caffeine. So I get it. I can't relate, but I get it.
Totally. I was in Orlando like 2 weeks ago, and we were at Disney Springs, and I stopped into Starbucks, and it was right before we had to drive all the way back to Jacksonville, and I was so tired. And I walked in and I was like, I need something strong, but not like that's going to give me like heart palpitations. And she was like, whatever you do, if you're really, susceptible to high caffeine amounts, never get the nitro cold brew. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
They
often brew those as a concentrate, and I think that's why they.
She was like, we don't even sell them bigger than Grande.
It's funny how it's like if you went to a bar and there's like certain drinks where they're like, you can only have like 2 of these. Like we have to cut you off because there's so much alcohol in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm one of those people that has to stop drinking coffee before like noon. Otherwise I'll be up like all night long.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I think I'm good until about 3 or 4 o'clock. I can drink.
I have a kid though, so I have to be in bed by like 9.
Oh,
What time do you get to go to bed?
I stay up pretty late.
So.
I have a kid too, but I stay up pretty late. I just don't sleep a lot.
It might be because of the coffee.
Yeah, maybe.
And do you see a Young Buck coffee shop in the future?
Yes. At some point. We don't have any plans for that right now. We just moved into a new space. And we're a little bit closer to downtown. And we've got a little bit more room. And so we're just sort of settling into a new place right now. It's still closed door, so we can't, we don't have a retail space. We can't have people come in. But yeah, like one day, we are thinking about opening a coffee shop. So.
And who does your graphic design?
Well, right now we are in the process of going through a total rebranding with a local company called Israd Studios, Ainsley Randall and Travis Wagner. Ainsley is Jax's Rad, which you guys probably know about. Yeah, and so they just the two of them just started a new design firm, and we're doing a total rebrand from them. So we'll have a new logo, new packaging, new bags, graphics, and
they're pretty great right now, though, too, for being the first go. They really are.
Yeah, we get mixed reviews. I did all of the graphic design for the current packaging myself. So I have an art background, but I don't have a design background. I'm self-taught in Illustrator and Photoshop, and so I put all this together as sort of like a bootstrapping exercise, lean business model kind of thing to save money and just to get something out there, because we had the product, we knew we wanted to do that. We didn't have, the amount of money that we needed to go through a whole process with a designer. But now we're realizing that, that we want it to be a little more understandable, a little more like right now, I feel like you have to sort of ask some questions to figure out what's going on there. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it makes people a little more inquisitive and want to know more about us. But like when you're on the shelf at a grocery store, there's not going to be somebody around to explain your brand to someone. And so it kind of needs to be, understandable as is. And then if they want to know more, they can, we'll have the story on the back or whatever of, what is Young Buck, who is Young Buck, and then we'll have more information on the website as well. So
totally.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan. And how long have you been out in the market?
We're coming up on a year right now. So I think September will be 1 year. According to our Instagram posts. First Instagram post was sometime at the end of August of last year. So
happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Your birthday.
Yeah.
And are there any misconceptions people may have about being a coffee roaster?
I guess just like anything else, like if you have a hobby, it's something that you love doing all the time, and then all of a sudden you start doing it to make money, it sort of loses some of that, romanticism, that ideal. But the good part about it is when you, start doing it as a business, you're a little more justified for spending like tons and tons of money on something like buying equipment or things like that, because you can justify it because, you're selling a product that's going to, eventually make you a return.
Yeah. You're like, I really need this really expensive equipment to
make exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good part about it. It's not as, it's repetitive. It's, I don't want to talk about it like it's all bad. It's so fun. I love roasting coffee every time I do it. And especially love, the cupping afterwards. We have a pretty robust quality control program set up where every single time I roast, I taste the coffee before I give it to anyone. So the orders come in, we roast the coffee, I taste it, and then I sell it. And so that tasting process and being able to notice the subtle, differences, the subtle, the nuances of the coffee every single time, and like just subtle changes that happen between every roast, because it is a handmade, thing. It's an artisan process. Those are the kind of things that keep me sort of like, motivated to keep exploring and want to try new things. And like we just had two of our micro lot coffees, our Tanzania and our Costa Rica honey process. I just changed the roast profile on those like two weeks ago. So if you order them now and you've had them before, they're going to taste different. But I think they're just way better. For just I changed the roast profile by 4 degrees. So a difference of 4 degrees just completely changed the way the coffee tasted. Yeah. Yeah. So like fun stuff like that, that I get to do on a regular basis now.
So we are a library and we love to talk books. So along your journey of learning how to roast coffee, were there any books that you turned to?
Yeah. So one key text for coffee roasting is Scott Rao's Coffee Roaster's Companion. And that is just like a very in-depth sort of look into the processes of roasting and how they affect, how the different parts of the process affect flavor. And he's a industry professional, and he's got a lot of great, information out there. But that one was one of my go-tos for coffee roasting. Yeah.
Cool. And besides your coffee, what's your favorite brand of coffee?
Let's see. It's a good question. It's a little controversial now, but because they were purchased by Nestle, but I am really into Blue Bottle coffee out of California. I think that they do an excellent job, and there was that all of their coffees are incredible, super sweet, and very nuanced. And their brand, because they do a really good job of being approachable to the average customer. There's a thing in coffee now where just like with wine, we've been talking about wine quite a bit, like where people sort of feel alienated by all the information that you have to like be a good coffee consumer or whatever, So I feel like Blue Bottle did a really good job of making their brand accessible to like the average person. And, because nobody's intentionally like alienating, like everybody just.
Yeah. I mean, like when you go to Publix and you go look at the coffee section, you see how cheap like Maxwell House is. And then you see how, then you go to Grassroots or Fresh Market and you see how it's like double the cost to buy like.
Sometimes, yeah.
Like a Sweetwater or Lavazza or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you compare it to like, let's say like Starbucks, for instance, like on the shelf, you're at about, 30 to 50% higher, price, but the price generally is dictated by the cost of the green coffee. And then, so like the markup goes from there. And so like what you can sort of deduce from that is that, they're buying cheaper coffee, and that's why it costs less.
Totally.
Yeah. But yeah, like we just want, our coffee, our brand to be accessible to just like the average person, and that you not feel like you have to have, a degree in coffee to like, to enjoy our coffee. So
definitely. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us. It was such a pleasure and so much fun tasting through all your delicious coffees as well.
Definitely.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you're craving a cup of coffee afterwards, don't worry. We're ready for our 4th cup too.
Hearing Ryan's passion for brewing just makes you appreciate a locally roasted cup of coffee even more. Although Young Buck doesn't have a storefront yet, you can check it out online at youngbuckcoffee.com or at local grocery stores like Grassroots Natural Market. We'll be sure to provide all of the links on our site.
And if you like today's episode, please be sure to rate and review us. You can follow our social media channels anywhere at Jack's Library for info and updates on future podcasts and on any library happenings.
Until next time, I'm Gabby.
And I'm Amanda.
Bye guys.